We are whole. My heart is so full right now. I am so wildly grateful for these incredible humans who are a part of my beloved community, our beloved community. And this week, I got to do something really fun and interview some folks in our community and beyond the ABQCSL community and our larger community as we prepare something really cool for you for Pride. We're going to be doing a Pride service on June 14th, and one of the folks I got to interview was Bunny Benton Cruz, who is a force to be reckoned with. She is one of the biggest hearts I've ever come across. She is also a trans woman and my friend, a fierce advocate for my kid. She is a fierce advocate for love and does incredible things in this community, feeding people, nurturing people, serving on boards, working for the good of all. And as we were wrapping up our conversation this week, she said, I went to bed Thursday night hopeless. And one of the things that I'd promised myself in my life was that I wouldn't let anybody take my hope. And yet I went to bed Thursday night hopeless, with the state of the world, with seeing images of a black man being killed, and seeing images of what outrage looks like on the streets and what happens when fear and rage combine for ill. And she went to bed that night, and all she knew to do was pray. And she prayed to Guadalupe, who is her patron saint. She prayed to Guadalupe and said, Guadalupe, give me something to do. Give me some hope that I can share. And she woke up the next morning with the idea that she was going to organize a social distance pride parade, which is now a thing and it's happening. And look for the event on Facebook, and I hope you join us. But what struck me so much is in that conversation, Bunny shared with me that Guadalupe makes her greater than she is without that relationship with the divine. Guadalupe is what, she said, makes her successful. And it is in that relationship with the greater than that Bunny has been a force for love and a true actor of loving kindness. In our practice this morning, in our meditation practice, we practice Tonglen. And one of the reasons we practice Tonglen is so that we know how to be with our own suffering and the suffering of others. And it's what Bunny did when she went to her bed hopeless and called out to the divine, called out to the greater than that she knew was within her but couldn't find access to. And Albert Camus says, we all carry within us our places of exile, our crimes, our ravages, and our task is not to unleash them on the world. It is to transform them in ourselves and others. And until we can meet the places in us that are exiled, that are ravaged, and that are criminal, and do the work of transmuting, transforming those places in us, and then breathing that out into the world as the light and the love that we actually are. And it begins with us. It begins with our own places of exile and crime and devastation. but it also has to occur in oneness, in actual oneness, not in the airy-fairy theoretical oneness, but in actual oneness. We must be available to that oneness in a way that acknowledges my interdependence with yours, my suffering as your suffering. We must acknowledge the conditions of the world, not as an us and them, not as, oh, those black people are suffering. We are all suffering in these conditions. And in order to approach those conditions as we know to do as spiritual practitioners, the condition is not the thing we spend our time on. It is the truth that we spend our time on, that we put the work in on. Because it is only the truth that can transform those conditions. And the truth includes the entirety of life itself. The truth includes my pain, your pain. We do not get to divide it up into what is truth, what is godly, what is holy, what is sacred, and what isn't. It either all is or it all isn't. We actually make oneness real or we don't. And the oneness of life itself, the wholeness of life itself, includes the pain. It includes the exile. It includes the criminal. Which means all of us are suffering under the ill of white supremacy. Even that officer with his knee on a black man's throat. No one gets to escape oneness, which means none of us get to escape the suffering of one another. That is a spiritual law. Benjamin Franklin said, "Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are." Bunny went to sleep and prayed for hope because she was as affected and devastated by the ills of white supremacy as anybody with black skin. When you connect actually to oneness, there is no way for you not to be outraged. If you are practicing the spiritual principle of unity, you must be outraged. You must be experiencing pain and suffering, because that is what's real right now. In the lives of everybody on this planet, no one under the law and principle of oneness is not affected by this. Wherever you find yourself in the story of life right now, whether you find yourself with black skin or brown skin or yellow skin or red skin or white skin, wherever you find yourself, this disease is societal, which means we are all impacted by it. Our pains may be different. Our experience of suffering may be different, much like this global pandemic. It is one pandemic that we are all in together, even though we all find ourselves in different positions inside that oneness. That is the condition of the pandemic. The truth is oneness. But our practice of that truth has to be real, has to be made real. So that is why we practice a meditation like Tonglen, is so that we become more able to make real the oneness that is. And so that, like Bunny, when we go into that pain, when we lean in and breathe in the pain and suffering of our beloveds, of our human family, of our life family, when we just lean in and take it in and take it to the greater than, and connect ourselves in prayer to that greater than, that very pain becomes a divine idea, becomes a divine next right step. Much like Bunny went into that bed hopeless and came out after prayer with a divine idea, a way for her to share hope. But it was only because she allowed the pain and suffering of others. And do you know what happened at the end of my conversation with Bunny? And I'm so excited to share that with you soon. But Bunny, after some tears together, prayed for me. Bunny, as a trans woman who has been through things many of us cannot imagine, said, Amani, I stand with you as a mother of a black boy. And I thank you for believing in a world that's better for all of us. That is true kindness. That is loving kindness. Rabbi Shapiro, in the book we are studying together right now, said, we are confronted by the suffering of others every day. And unless and until we open our hearts to that suffering, our kindness towards those who suffer will be more an act of avoidance than love. I shared yesterday on Facebook, mind your kindness. He went on to say, there, but for the grace of God go I, is to misread the situation entirely. And I'm going to add to that because he's much more diplomatic than I'm feeling right now. This concept of there, but for the grace of God go I, is utter shit. This concept is a definition of us and them. This idea that, oh, there's suffering and it could be me. It is you. There is no us and them. Rabbi Shapiro went on to say, the other's suffering is your suffering if you truly understand the non-duality of self and other. Until you experience this directly, you cannot act with true loving kindness. The curtain is open. The veil is lifting. The light is shining on all that actually is. And if we cannot have a direct experience of our collective pain and suffering, and do the work required under the law of oneness, of non-duality, if we don't go into that truth like we mean it, like it's real, and begin to understand that any injustice is an injustice for all of us, and any freedom must also be for all of us. That, my friend, is spiritual practice. So if you are having the experience right now of, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to feel, I don't know what to say, I say, lean in. Lean in more deeply to that pain. Lean into that confusion. It is the pathway to a direct experience of oneness. I invite you to recognize that if you are someone without black skin, You are also suffering under the injustice that black-skinned folks are suffering from. We don't divvy out the suffering under a systemic system of dis-ease. And so I invite you, you do not need to come and ask me what to do as a black woman. Your own spirit knows what to do because you are suffering too. And I invite you to lean into that discomfort. Lean in to that pain and that bewilderment and connect to the greater than that resides in you right next to that pain. Be willing to go so deeply into the feeling that is present in you, to that dark ball of yucky, and sit with it long enough. Directly experience it in your own being long enough. So as the sweet JD taught us this morning, you can hold it and breathe it until it becomes light. And you give that to the world through your exhale, through your next right step, through your next honest words, through that divine idea that may visit you because you leaned in. I also want you to consider, once again, I've been using this quote pretty much every week for a while now, from Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind. The only guarantee of our divinity is in its expression through our humanity. I believe the greatest ill of our time is that the divinity that we are and the human that we are somehow different. And it's a lie. It is, as the Christian tradition teaches, a sin. And sin, translated, actually means missing the mark. All it means is a misunderstanding. I was aiming over here and I missed it. The truth is right here and I was a little bit over here and I missed it. Believing that somehow our humanity, life itself in the manifest universe, is not divine, is what makes it possible for us to continue to allow systems of injustice. It's what makes possible that we allow people to die of starvation in this day and age. This idea that somehow we're just humans. I don't know what to do. I can't do anything. No. It is in leaning into our humanity, is leaning into our outrage. It is leaning into our feelings of hopelessness that actually provide the divine idea for the solution. It is in stepping fully into our humanness that allows spirit to get here more fully than ever. Mary Magdalene in the Gospel of Mary, which was one of the lost Gospels and one of the hidden and buried and tried to be destroyed Gospels, she said the journey, the purpose of all religion, of all spiritual practice, is to become fully human. That we discover our full rights as sons and daughters of the divine. And you know what she called God? She called God the good. Mary Magdalene is one of my patron saints. Because that's exactly what I believe. That it is in our full humanity that we discover the rights that are inherent as us, as divine children, as divine expressions. It is not an either or. It is not I have to fix my humanness so that I can be more divine. It is about being fully human. It is about fully leaning in to our flesh and our bones and our feelings and our mistakes and our stumbles. And here's the thing I want you to know, especially if you are positioned with white skin in this current time. The shame or guilt you are wrestling with, the ancestral lineage of harm and devastation that you inherited, that's yours to lean into. That is yours to confront. And what I know for sure, that is as you do that, as you wrestle with that shame and with that pain, you will be given the divine idea of how to be the change we all want to see in the world. And as a woman with black skin, I can't do that for you. My wrestle is different because I'm in a different position in the very same disease. My wrestle is forgiveness. My wrestle is, how do I believe in my own wholeness inside a system that believes I'm less than? But it's the same system we are all wrestling with. And I invite you, through the practice of Tonglen, through the practice of self-inquiry, and by saying yes to the invitation of this time, right here and right now, to say yes to the wrestling that is yours individually to do, and lean in. Because when we each say yes individually to what our particular place in this wholeness is, it makes the way possible for us to say yes collectively, to actually practice oneness, to actually create together the world we all want to be living in. So I invite you to put that into the comments. I invite you to say, I am wrestling with this, and this is my commitment. I say yes to wrestling. I say yes to leaning in. Lovingly hold each other to it. And let's anchor this together in prayer now. What I know for sure, without a doubt in every fiber of my being, is there is only one. One life, one love, one wisdom, one divine that has birthed us each into creation on purpose, beautifully, uniquely, specially, so that we could each hold this position, this space, this moment in time as the perfect, divine, authentic love that we are. Because we are each a brushstroke in the painting of the divine. And we all play a part, a critical part. And so I know each of us says yes and leans in more to our absolute wholeness, to our full humanness, knowing that as we do it, we are communing more deeply with God than we ever have before. And because we do this, the systems of injustice dissipate. The ways of being in the world, the addiction to wealth and power simply goes away because the truth is more powerful, and it always has been, and it always will be. And I am grateful. I am grateful beyond words because I believe in us. I believe in the awakening that is happening right now. I believe in the tears. I believe in the rage. I believe in the hearts of our humanity, because it is already breaking good. It is already breaking down what's in the way, making room and making way for the world that works for everyone. And I am so grateful and so deeply convicted in my faith in this truth that I just let it be. And I let it blossom, and I let it unfold in all of its mysterious perfection. And anchor this with me by saying, and so it is. Thank you.